Welcome everybody. Good evening here at Eagle Lock. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We have an exciting training session tonight. I am just so excited to invite a guest here, Rejma Alam. She is one of our prestigious moms that are part of our program. Her daughter has been in our program for a while now, and frankly, we always deem her as one of the superstars of our program just because she's done so well, has been so active in the program, has done so many things, and has frankly submitted an amazing application, several applications, of course, and has, as of early, I say as of early, been accepted to some very great schools. And so we're just so proud of her. But, we thought we've been interviewing a lot of the students. And so we thought, well, why don't we interview a parent? Because I know sometimes it gets a little bit crazy. I'm sure that there is some trepidation in the whole college application process. So we wanted to, do an interview with a parent. Now, what I'm going to do is just give you a little background of who I am, of course. I'm Coach Art with Eagle Lock. I've been with Eagle Lock for over 4 years. I have been in the college admission space for about 8 years, been in technology for over 30 years, and been a coach for sports teams as well as life coach and working with all levels of students from middle school, elementary, high school, college, even finding opportunities and jobs. But of course, my biggest claim to fame is my three boys. My oldest graduated last year from UC Berkeley with a mechanical engineering degree. My middle son, he is studying his pre-med bio degree at University of Illinois in Chicago. And then my youngest is studying his physical therapy degree at Biola University. And he's also playing college soccer. So for all of those parents out there, I understand. I truly understand. I have three of my own that have gone through the college admissions process. And so I know the ups and downs and the stresses and the worries that you go through. And so I'm just really excited about this session with Rejma. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now that I've introduced myself, Rejma, I'm going to ask for you if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of background of who you are.
Absolutely. My husband and I have been like really transplants from Canada. So
Mm.
that's one of the factors of like we don't know American universities very well and how things work here. But we both
Mhm.
are software engineers, living and
Okay.
working in the US for over 25 years now.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, so and we have two children, Zara, who's 17 and a senior, and one right behind her, a
Ooh,
15-year-old who's a freshman.
there you go.
And so yeah, it's been like like I'm a program manager by profession, but like by I like generally IT. I work for like a tech company and
Mm.
like
Yeah,
many others in California, but like
sure.
yeah, needed some
Okay.
help cracking this college code.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna get into that and talk about that. So I think let's kind of talk about first of all, and we'll get to we're gonna get right to the successes. Can you share just a brief overview of your child's and I say child's ours academic and activities background, and what does that look like?
So Zara, like her primary. focus all through her life, I would say, has really
Mhm.
been dance and ballet.
Wow.
And so like, I always assumed that she would probably choose some kind of creative career. She's always
Right.
been really, really great, like at drawing. I didn't know as a first-time mom that 5-year-olds don't just draw portraits like it's nothing. And so she's been really artistic, and so that's really what always we assume that she would have some kind of focus like that. But then come
Right.
to high school and she got exposed via dance. She got exposed to physiotherapy, and via her
Mhm.
school, she got exposed to her sports medicine program. And
Right.
then like right around ninth, 10th grade, that's when she really just honed
Mhm.
in, and was she's very self-driven, so she's like really honed
Sure.
in on that. So, and she like started to seek out experiences and everything
Mhm.
right around like sports medicine and biology. And so, and she's like academically, she's always been a straight A student, nothing that
Right.
we've ever had to really, um, you know, uh, like it wasn't a concern that she wanted to do STEM as her
Right.
major.
Right. Right. So that's an interesting interesting combination of someone that is quite artistic in all areas, drawing, dance or so, but then also is interested in maybe a STEM or science field and possibly wants to go into that in the future. Is that correct? Right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I had the pleasure of working with her as well and frankly reading her essays, which were incredible, which were really amazing. I'm frankly not surprised that the schools aren't, snatching her up because they were quite insightful. And you can tell that she has a creative mind as well, which helped a lot with the essays, which again, I'll just say it's all about the parents. It's all the parents. It's not the students. It's the parents that they get that from, right? So, so, so why not? We're gonna again. This is not about our kids. This is about us. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about you and so, um, can you kind of describe to me the experience, the initial? So this is prior to joining our program. What was your initial experience with the whole college admissions process? What were your concerns? What were you thinking? What are some of maybe the initial thoughts of how it should go or so? So can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Yeah, like so since we very first, let me get your question right. So just how we started thinking about college applications in general.
Yeah, and then and what were your thoughts prior to? Because I'm sure prior to you probably did research, you probably did your own thing. Maybe you knew or maybe you didn't know uh all about the college admissions. You kind of mentioned that you were, in Canada and it was much different than it. So what were those experiences? Like what if you can kind of put us in your shoes prior to joining our program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there were like honestly we're very open parents, as in, hey, choose what you want. And I
Yeah.
cannot really say that before 10th grade, I took college applications as something like we're going to devote so much time and energy into, because
Mm,
that's the difference in my Canadian experience. Is like we had counselors. Like I don't think my
right.
parents even knew where I applied to. Like there's one
Yeah,
form
exactly.
in
Yeah.
Ontario, and I just told them here are the 5 colleges I applied to, and then it was
Hmm.
so like it was like maybe a weekend's conversation,
Right.
and like whatever like our schools would put us through, the like a good like, hey, what are your strengths, what are your skills and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think that it was my naiveness that I thought it would be so organic and just
Yeah.
naturally naturally flow, and that, hey, we've done everything DIY ourselves, we would just be able to figure this out. And I
Sure.
think So several things like really came together, and also we were actually just getting out of COVID in
Mm,
when she
okay.
started high school. So it was such a
Okay.
different frame of mind that
Yeah.
we were not really focused on like, oh, what are we going to do? It's just like, okay, life's getting back to normal. Like, let's
Sure.
like, yeah. I think her biggest concern was she couldn't perform because there was no ballets going on, like
Oh
because of
no.
COVID and things like that. So I think come 10th grade, when the school counselor started engaging us also,
Mhm.
but then the information we would get from them would be so very like just skim the surface. And then
Yeah.
I'm an engineer, and I'm like, I'd start digging into it and I'd ask
Sure.
questions, but I wouldn't really get the answers I'm looking for. They were very general information.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I think, and then also combined with the fact that now my daughter is like, I always thought she'll be taking certain careers and she wants to
Sure.
pivot and have a STEM major. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't think we can take this very lightly. I don't know if we have a strategy or approach to either of this. And so that's
Sure.
generally the frame of mind I was in. And also, we come from a charter school, which is only 126 students
Got
in
it.
our grade. And I expected that the high school counselors would be able to guide us so much more than they did. And we're also
Yeah.
a very college prep kind of school. So I was just
Sure.
really surprised at the lack of
Mm.
amount of like guidance or personalized guidance, which I
Yeah.
get, because I think that's just not possible with whatever
Sure.
they have going on. So I
Yeah.
think these are all the things that really like affected us. And like, so come 10th and 11th grade, we're like, all right, I remember telling my husband, we're gonna need help. And I don't know what that help is, but we're gonna need help. So
So do you believe that was the stage at which you decided, you know what? Okay, we're gonna have to bring in the cavalry, right? We gotta have to figure something out here. And what was the process that you took in searching for a college admissions consulting firm? Like what, can you just give a little bit elaborate of, how you went and I'll tack on to the end of that. How did you find us? So that's,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So I started from the starting point of our school counselors. They had certain, and I can't remember all the names now, but they
Yeah.
had representatives from certain like companies come by and give us
Oh,
little seminars. And so that's, I think, some of the first places we started.
okay.
And so we had several sessions and like talked
Mm,
to, so while I was doing that, I
mhm.
randomly came upon Coach Tony's
Yeah.
some of his like free seminars or things
Right.
like that. And I think that's a theme. A lot of places offer that. And so
Yes.
I said, okay, that's a great starting point. And I also
Sure.
have to say that there's a big like difference of opinion between my husband and I. My husband's like, hey, she's smart. What do you mean? We don't need
Right.
anyone to take fake rowing pictures of her. What's going on
Sure.
here? Like, and so, I mean, that was so also in the back of our minds is like, we don't need that kind of help. And so I said, okay, please trust me and let me like research more. And I
Right.
think finally something I listened to one of Coach Tony's training seminars, and I was like, okay, I love his energy. I really want to talk to him, and I
Yeah.
want to like just see what they have to offer in
Okay.
like compared to the rest of the folks we were talking with. And
Sure.
the rest of the folks we were talking with, I have to say, were a little intimidating. It some felt
Mm.
so formal and like, okay, and also, can I have 1 year college tuition for that? I was like, oh my God. And my husband's like, that does not sound like a good idea. He's like, shouldn't we be saving and putting that money to college? So then when I talked to Coach Tony, I literally
Yeah.
just told him everything in
Right.
that introduction. I said, we're not
Okay.
really looking for, do you have like somewhere where I could just make sure that she's on the right track, but she doesn't need hand holding because I
Mm.
think my daughter is really independent. And so that's
Okay.
when I think really made the difference. He said, like, you filled out everything. We know where you're at.
Right.
You can see that you're like straight A student, you have a lot of variety and diversity in your experience. So I think we
Okay.
really just need someone to help us bring it together. And so
Good.
it was
Good.
really, really great to see that there were those levels of service. And so I think he
Awesome.
recommended us for like something that like just, hey, do the college intensive and then you'll
Right.
have like, and that appealed to us a lot. And it really like my husband's like, okay, fine, that's great. That sounds great. So we all could agree on that instantly. And then
Yeah.
I think that that's basically how we came upon you, and I'm glad
Great.
we did.
Yeah, and so, you kind of talk about the challenges, their concerns. And kind of let me just see if I can reiterate them a bit. Is you talked about maybe the cost of the consulting services was a little high, or maybe considerably high. It's up to you. As well as is that the formality of it. And I don't know if did it feel like that it was almost, I don't know if it's saying is scary in the sense of a process because they were just so forward. And I'm curious trying to figure out the difference between, what you saw in Eagle Lock and what you saw in the other presentations. I know that we are different in that, we give all of our information out for free, right? We give it out, but at the same time, the power of it is to make sure that we can personalize that information and get the right information for our students. But um uh, I think you're right in the sense of we have a different energy, a positivity, and I don't know if that's if did you feel that as a difference maker per se between the other programs that you research and ours?
Absolutely. It felt like when I interacted with some of the other companies, it felt a little formal, almost like my, lawyerish and like that kind of
Mm.
feeling where it's like, okay, and here's the whole method, but there was no advice until you like sign the contract and like so that,
Ah.
and it was very much like, okay, but how do I know like you're
Yeah.
the right fit?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
before like just us being very analytical people, I'm like, okay, so either I have to rely on someone else's experience of going through these places,
Right.
which is the way I would have done it, or like I think with you guys, it's just like, hey, come talk to us. You can talk to us. You can ask us
Sure.
any questions. You can see what we have to offer. A lot of information's already, there's so many guides out there, so much
Right.
that I already read, and it made so much sense. I think that's what the
Good.
differentiator was, that you
Good.
obviously had confidence in your
Yes.
abilities because you were
Sure.
not afraid to share information even before people were willing to come on.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about our company, is that the information's out there. We're not
Yeah,
we're not we're being very transparent. The information is out there, but there's so much of it out there.
yeah.
And I think you could get lost, or go down a rabbit hole or not. Maybe there's conflicting information, right? And so uh I know when I first started as a parent, that was 8 years ago, and that's how I got into this. It was volumes, it was mountains of information, and it was hard to get through. And so did you have that same experience as well, as that you found all this information, but maybe some were conflicting, maybe some were just not right, or maybe you didn't know if that was the right thing to do or so?
Absolutely. I think that there is an amazing amount of hearsay, and that
Mm.
that is really like crazy because you'll always be like, oh well, but Stanford, because of this and this and this, like
Yeah.
this person got in and that did like this wasn't even enough. And so I think there was mostly a lot of fear, like because what
Oh,
we will say, what we would hear is,
yeah.
oh, there's only like 4 kids from like XYZ high school can ever get into any UC or any blah 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 blah.
Wow.
And so it
Wow.
felt like, okay, is that really the case? Because this is just anecdotal. I want to see numbers. I'm total
Mm.
data girl. I'm like, I want to see some logic in this
Sure.
conversation and
Sure.
like want to know for sure. And so I
Yeah.
think having While we have, we don't have the time as parents to like
Sure.
constantly like go around and spend hours into researching
Sure.
this information and then knowing and validating that it's correct.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's the overwhelm of information is real, and it's
Yeah.
also the validity of it is also questionable.
Great. And so I'm curious when you did the initial consultation with us, because normally our process is that we'll bring once you decide to join or leaving that before, we provide you with a college assessment, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of go over it and we say, okay, here's what we think. Can you give us a little bit of insight of how you felt that process went, and was it and how valuable it was for you and your and your husband and Zara and the kids with that consultation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that by the time we had engaged, we were I want to say not fully halfway, but somewhere halfway through junior year.
Okay.
So we definitely knew that, oh, this is looming on us and time's short.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so there was definitely that pressure. But also, I feel like I can truly say that, okay, Zara did authentically whatever she wanted to do, almost painfully so, because I would be like, "Can you sign up for some clubs and like do some kid?" She's like, "Nope, waste of my time. Don't want to do it." So
Okay.
it's like, I like, but okay, there's so many kids just like checking those boxes and doing. So I
Right.
think it's like what is important. So Coach
Hmm.
Tony could instantly, through that assessment, put our minds to rest to
Right.
say, and he really logically laid it out, and he said, hey, there is academics, there are these buckets, and
Right.
then in these buckets, like, you've really maxed out your extracurricular bucket. Putting one more thing there is not going to make a difference. So I think really knowing that, that was the most logical and sensible piece of advice, I think, that
Mm.
that really like struck me, because I think we went around thinking we don't know what we have is enough or
Right.
appropriate, and should we be clamoring
Right.
to add some more things to XYZ? And I
Sure.
think putting that in perspective, say, and it's true, like that we've seen with our acceptances, because she was
Yeah.
like, there's no matter what category you have and how much you have, you can always
Yeah.
add more. But are you going to
Yes.
kill yourself doing that? Or is that
Yeah.
really going to add the value you think is going to add? So I think that assessment really straight set us straight in
Okay.
knowing that here's what we could do more, and here's where we've already maxed out things. And I think
Got it.
I really could trust that advice because it was so logical.
So, what ways did our team assist your child in selecting, the suitable colleges and preparing for their apps? So let's talk about before we started the application, the actual application. What were some things and services and that you thought were very valuable for you guys,
I think colleges is where I struggled a lot, like,
Mm,
and so did Zara, in terms
mhm,
of, hey, how do we, they're just the overwhelm of choices. Like, that's the
mm,
drastic difference between here and Canada. Like, there's like, I don't know, we don't need to talk about the system there, but they're all accredited, they're all
sure,
state
sure.
funded. There is very little private, um, like it's very different system. So, so you didn't have to worry about the ins and outs of that, like whatever
Sure.
funding and all of that was all very like just one one thing that
Hmm.
fits you. If you have certain levels, you can expect
Hmm.
some tuition credit. So here, choosing the colleges is like, I think, coaches work with Zara to say, okay, what are your majors? Oh, well, first of what are your preferences? Like, do you want
Right.
urban versus small
Rural. Yeah,
colleges, or
exactly.
would you like to live in a snowy place, or or do you want, and what is more important? So I
Yes.
think going through that exercise helped her a ton. And
Great.
I keep being amazed because we're yet to get a rejection, because I was like, we really like, I don't know how many times I've said it, that we really picked our colleges well. And when I say we, it's
Yes.
really what you helped us do, right? Like pick
Mhm.
those colleges well, because
Yeah.
she like, the colleges that she applied to, she was a good fit for. And some of
Yes.
them, while she was applying, she's like, the more I read about them or their questions, I don't want to apply. And so we are like, don't apply. If that's the feeling you get, and that was the advice echoed by you also,
Yes.
that yes, like it's not just a one-way fit. Do
No.
they want you? Do you want to be there?
Exactly.
And I think all of that really helped, and
Yeah,
I
I mean
think the
it's
results have shown.
yeah, it's one of those things I think a lot of families they get so wrapped up in, oh, we got to go to the top 20,
Yeah.
or we need only these because that's the only, and it's so it pains me sometimes to think, no, you really have to pick the right school for you. Not necessarily what other people are saying is, oh, that's school because it's the most prestigious. The most prestigious school may not be the right school for you, or it might be, but it is. It's one of the things that we do, I think, very well is to be able to assess, looking at what the student, their profile, what they're interested in, what they're passionate about, what they love to do, what they want to do in the future, and then say, hey, and going through that list of questions and saying, all right, here are the colleges, here are the possible majors that would suit you. And when you do that, you're right, then it fits, it works very well when we start doing the application process. And that's why we start so early. So I'm curious, you know, about let's talk about the application process, because it was it started very quickly, right? So Zara she came into the application process, and then what happens here for you is, can you tell me the experience that Zara had with respect to writing her essays, her personal statements, applicate? Can you give me a little bit of insight on that?
Absolutely. I think I did accompany her for the
Okay.
application intensive, so I was right by her side, and I can say that I got to experience it also. I'm just
Yeah,
inquisitive, so I had to.
sure.
And I think I was really we were deer in headlights when we came, because there were a few things that we knew
Yeah.
that we needed to be prepared with, but I
Okay.
think what Zara always tells me is that she's creative. She has good stories to
Hmm.
tell. But
Yeah.
I think the single most thing that she was able to pick up is how to present her case well. And it's not
Mm,
the what, like she was really like very focused on the what, and like,
yeah.
but the whys, and really like just going back to like, okay, here are your experiences, but what did you learn
Hmm.
from it? What did you like? What is
Yeah.
it that you're trying to say? What are you trying to show? And so I
Yes.
think those pieces and the whole application intensive, I cannot say enough good things about it. Like, as in, I was so amazed. I mean, and all the coaches, I mean, Coach
Mhm.
Art, we saw you, but every person who was there,
Sure.
I mean, even the 15th time they're reading something from a student, um, they stay positive. They
Yeah.
keep giving them
Sure.
important sentences to think about, important things to think about, and
Sure.
never was once like anything fed to them. So there was no like,
Good. Yes.
oh, you need to write this. I
Mm.
never, ever, ever heard that. It was like always like questions and questions and questions to
Hmm.
help them come upon
Yeah.
why they're doing, like, what is it that they want to tell. And like, I think that whole process really, really helped her.
Yeah.
And it changed it, because I think all the writing that, even you have a good writer,
Yes.
which my next one is not, but I'm saying like, even if you have a good writer,
Yeah.
um, they're taught differently. They're taught to write essays. They're taught to tell stories. They're taught to have like
Hmm.
openings and closings, and that's not how you write your PIQs or your personal statement. And I think that
Yeah.
that was very insightful.
Wow, I would tell you, Resma, if you are thinking of another job, maybe we can have you as one of our coaches because you elaborated so well, that process, and it's so true with our essays is that the biggest thing is for the schools to really understand who you are. And the big thing that a lot of unfortunately students they're taught, yes, in high school, they're taught to write about a subject or something else, but they're never taught how to write about themselves. And the schools are not looking to say, "Oh, I'm in a captain of this tennis team," or I'm a debate lead of the debate. They can see all that in your activities section, but it's really who truly are you, and what you mentioned exactly. What are the whys? And that can make the huge difference in whether they choose you or not choose you in your application. And so thank you for that. I think for those who may not know, again, we have a college application intensive that Zara did attend, and this where you are face to face with a coach, and yeah, it's basically a 2 day situation where I forgive me respectfully poking at you and saying, hey, asking you questions. What do you mean by this? You need to refine this in this way. Are you telling me who you are? And that's, but I will tell you, once the students get that, once they understand that concept, then they fly. And I did see that in Zara as well. Is that once she understood after a while when you were talking, I'm asking the questions, everything, she's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then her writing it was incredible. Not to say that it wasn't in the beginning, because she's a very good writer. But what do you think? And I'll ask this: is what do you think the most beneficial services were to Zara? With respect to our Eagle Lock services, what do you think was the most beneficial?
I think picking the right colleges
Hmm.
and then honing your personal statement and essays really. And I think I say that because we were already we were already like close to mid to end junior year. So we
Hmm.
didn't change course in what we were doing. I think the
Sure.
third thing I would say that she did adjust. So she was already dual enrolled and
Hmm.
doing, but I think some like tweaks with the coaches helped her pick the right dual enrollment courses to make
Okay.
sure that hey, let's maximize for
Yeah.
to the extent that she chose her senior year a particular
Okay.
way. So I would say that the course pickings also, we did
Okay.
adjust course a little bit for our last year, senior year.
Good. So how did you feel about the communication and the interaction of our team with you and Zara? How was that for you?
I mean, I would love to say that I was as involved, but I really wasn't.
That's okay. And that's okay because you know why again, you rely on us to do the work. You see what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's perfect. Yes. Yeah.
So what I mean by that, my extent of involvement was like, hey, did you do your check-in?
Okay.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
did you blah blah blah? And
Sure.
occasionally we would strategize and say, hey, your monthly check-in's coming up, so here are the things that we want
Right.
to make sure that you
Right.
ask. But initially I was like, oh, I should probably attend everything, but it is a fact that you gave us me so much comfort that I was like,
Okay,
honestly,
good.
like I can leave her to it. She will get the answers, and then
Good.
if we had any questions, I asked her this question actually before this interview because I said, I want to hear from you what you have to say. And she's like, Mom, there's nothing to say. Anytime I needed anything answered, someone would answer it. And like
Good.
it basically, like she just said that you guys are there for her whenever she needed anything, and she always
Good.
felt that your answers were quicker and more forthcoming than her high school counselor. So it's like, and
Well,
that's
I'm glad.
exactly what we were looking for. Exactly what we were looking.
Good. And again, I always say is uh, high schools, counselors, teachers, they have the toughest job and they
They do, yeah.
frankly should be paid more and should be, I mean, they should be given golden stars. But the one thing is that the purpose of them is to truly make sure you make it through high school, right?
Yeah.
And the purpose of our company is so that you make it to college. And
Yeah.
there's a big difference between that, okay? And so kudos to them because they have a hard job, and so I'm so glad that you guys were able to depend on all the services and things we do because we take it very seriously and we are so proud of and get so much joy in helping our students get to where they are. And I can't tell you how much the journey from when they first start till they end is so miraculous because it's there's a change. They start realizing they can do these things. They start realizing the potential of where they could go, and they just start soaring, which is so incredible to me, at least as a coach. And I'm wondering if you felt that way with Zara, in a sense of her growth from when she started
I
with us till the end.
I absolutely feel that, and I want to share that we took all the help to submit the applications, but
Yes.
I say that she has learned and imbibed these things or knows how to present herself because right
Yes.
after she got admitted to several schools, she did
Yeah.
honors application, and she's gotten into all the honors colleges, including
Hmm.
special scholarships, because the writing just doesn't end. Like it doesn't end at your because they're like, oh, can like so she's accepted as a Getty Scholar at USF, and so that's just like
Congratulations.
additional money, additional,
Sure.
and I think she has a boost of confidence because she's like, I just have to write some things and I can get more money. I was like, that's not how life is going to work, but yes, it does. Yeah.
When we wish it could happen for everybody like that, right?
So I want to say that she didn't even like some of the turnarounds were tight, and she
Yeah,
didn't even like say I need an extra eyes on it. She just submitted it, and they
perfect.
all were successful. So
Yeah, well, again, as I mentioned, as the students progress, they understand what they need to do, right?
yeah,
And it's because of the lessons. And I say this not as boastfully, but it's the lessons that we give to them to really make sure that they're talking about themselves and that's all the schools are looking for is
yeah.
they really want to know the type of person you are so they can see does that match our school, and if it does, it's an instant thing. You see what I mean? And so I'm curious when you let's talk about Zara's applications or so, but and if you're okay inclined to share, is were the results that you saw for the college applications submitted, did they align with your expectations of the responses you've been getting or so?
I think they exceeded them to the point
Really?
where
Okay.
she chose we really did like leave a lot of the final decisions to her where she's applying.
Yes.
And so I was really quite surprised. Some of them were very, very rich and didn't really
Yeah.
think that we would have a choice in that to make. And
Sure.
so she got
Yeah.
into USC. And
Congratulations. That's a
and
hard
that
school to get into.
that's very hard. And
Yeah.
then she also Northeastern, for some reason
Great school.
she loved the co-op aspect to it, and
Yes.
so she
Yeah.
wanted to apply there. And so she got into that, and I think that just both of us like were not expecting that either of these schools at all.
Really? That's
So
interesting you say that because I remember talking with her and she's like, "Well, I just don't know about applying." I said, "Why not?
yeah.
What's the worst thing that can happen to you?" Okay, they say no, but what's the best thing that can happen? Is that you do get accepted. And that's one of the things that I love about what we do too is to open up and again, to raise the hope, but also just open up possibilities and opportunities to say, you know what, it is a possibility. Okay. We don't guarantee, can't guarantee
Yeah,
100% that you're going to make it. But the thing is that I always say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's
totally agree with that.
right. And yeah.
I think without CAS, we probably would not have considered applying to private schools,
There you
period.
go.
Because, like, we're just like, oh, state schools are the way to go. But now that I
Yeah.
know, there's such a
Hmm.
crapshoot to know how many people that can actually accommodate in
Sure.
UCs and stuff. And
Right.
other than that, her other, like, two very worthy mentions are USF and Santa Clara, both
Yeah.
at which
Great
she
schools.
has both of which she has like a half ride
Wow.
scholarship. And Santa Clara, we haven't heard back about the honors. We're still
Uh,
waiting, but USF accepted her to honors and then a
Incredible.
additional Getty scholarship. So now that really becomes like a real option, because
Sure.
now there's that comfort. She's like, well, if it's this UC and this, then I'll pick this. And I never really thought about it that way, that hey,
Mhm.
there UCs are great, but is it every UC that you really want to go to? Or there's certain
Right.
that you might prefer. And what if this college is a real option? And having
Right.
toured them, I mean, I would really say stay open and apply. Like, so all of this wouldn't have been possible, because we were just like, hey, the way to save money is to go to state schools, right? Like, or
Right.
something like that, where you actually, if you're a great student, privates will offer you so much
Yes,
more in
exactly.
aid. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great insight, and a lot of times you're right. Families kind of disregard that because they think it's so expensive, but these schools, if you're a great candidate, they really want you, and they'll make it worth your while in the sense of trying to get you to that school. And there are amazing schools out there. There's always a school for somebody. I'm wondering so based on the experience that you went through, what advice would you offer to other parents considering, uh, or let me take this back. If you had to do anything differently in the college application, but would there be anything different or would you keep it the same?
I'm so since I have a round two with my son, I'm already applying our lessons learned. And
Good.
one of the things that, like I said, a late decision to be a STEM candidate,
Mm,
really, and Zara's also like not her favorite thing to do MCPs and math.
yes,
Like that's just, she's a very bio artistic student.
sure.
So her SAT scores were, she gave it twice, and they weren't, I think they were much too late in the game, and they weren't
Yeah,
like, she did not end up submitting them. It was like a
sure.
close to 1400, but we just knew if we submitted those scores, there was like, you
Sure.
already, like, you're taking your application down, not up. So
Hmm.
that's something I would do differently for my
Okay.
son.
Yeah.
Like, and he, I think we would just this whole starting
Yes.
earlier. So in ninth grade, we've already enrolled him,
Good.
and he's like just had his. So I'm like, this not. There's never it's too soon to start. There is no too soon to start, because
Agreed.
we would
Yes.
love to have that guidance of activities, all of the things. Like if you know that you want to be a serious contender for some top schools,
Yeah.
it's just good to have that peace of mind to know that hey,
Agreed.
you're choosing things at the
Sure.
strategic time well, and you're using all the opportunities that
Sure.
you have available to you early. So that's
Yeah.
definitely that. So SAT, I would take earlier, encourage
Uh-huh.
him to take earlier, and start
Okay.
the planning a little earlier.
Okay. And what advice would you give to offer to other parents considering the use of a admissions consulting firm? Like, in your experience when you went through it and then you went through our company or so, what advice would you give to them?
I think it's even if you have all your I's dotted and T's
Hmm.
crossed,
Yeah.
it's just an extra layer of support,
Yeah.
confidence, advice that you
Yeah.
have at your disposal. So why
Yeah.
not? Like, why would you not do that to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's more than for me, because ultimately it's the students' confidence that matter. And I think just that, like, for I think I love it for the fact that like it gave her confidence to
Mhm.
not only like picture, like not only apply, but picture herself in these schools and be ready
Mhm.
for it and know that like that, I think that that would have been a little harder to come by because
Right.
though she hated the check-ins and the hated all the like, I will not lie because
No, that's
the
okay.
weekly stuff, right? Like, did you do it? Did you do it? But getting to read what other students are doing in
Yeah.
different parts of the country or whatever,
Yeah.
like I think that's also a source of like information, opportunity, and confidence because you can say, oh, that's interesting. I never heard of that. Let me look up what that
Mhm.
is. So I think that all in all, I think that it's a great experience. It just we're from a small town in Northern California.
Okay.
And the one thing that you don't know is how do you compete with people from the Bay Area, from LA, from other
Mm.
places? That's always kind of in the
Mhm.
back of your mind. It's like, hey,
Right.
how will like so for all of that, like I think a little boost in like information, strategy, and
Mhm.
like just setting yourself up for success, I would recommend.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll say here, wrap this up here is would you recommend to other families to use Eagle for their college admissions journey?
I mean, if they've been here so far and they've heard everything I've said, I mean, my answer is undoubtedly yes. Like, I
Okay.
think that so much
Yeah.
so that, like, I think we've already signed our son up, who's a 2028
Yes.
graduate. So we have some
Yes.
time, but I
Okay.
mean, I would highly, highly recommend you.
Well, well, that's good. I mean, it really warms my heart just because, at the end of the day, we do this because we want to help the students get to where they want to be. And truthfully, we do it because of that fact is we see the changes in students, we see the changes in their positivity and the way that they feel about themselves. And then of course their future roadmap where they're going to that school and they can be proud to say, hey, I put in the work. And we do that is we make sure we're not doing the work for them. They're doing the work. But as probably all the parents out there know and everything else is that when you do the work, the successful result is just so much more gratifying because you did it. You see what I mean? And not somebody else. So um, thank you so much, Rejma. And I will see. I'm gonna see is there before we end the call here, I'm wondering if there's any questions from the gallery, any questions from parents, if there's any questions out there that you have for Resma or myself with respect to this experience, please, I'll give about a couple seconds here is to ask any questions. If you have any questions about the process, what Resma or even Zara went through. Any questions at all? Okay, we'll wait here for a second. And while we're doing that, while we're waiting for that, Resma, I just wanted to thank you for being on the call, being so candid, giving your perspective. It just really helps to understand, how gratifying the process is for us because of the amazing families that support us and we really, really, really appreciate it. We really do. So,
I mean, honestly, I've never done anything like this, and it's so easy to give this interview because it's just very much we're more indebted to you than anything
oh,
else. So,
wow, that's that feels really great, and we appreciate it. And it's very heartfelt. Thank you so much for that. Oh, okay. Looks like we have a question here. All the best for you. Can you share what majors were chosen for the colleges for Zara? Like what is she getting into?
human biology, there's just some variations of all that. Like,
Okay,
so essentially, she wants to be in a pre-med track,
track.
but
Yeah,
with an eye to be doing uh, like a PT or sports med kind of major.
got it.
So
Hmm.
most places in USC, it was human biology, and so is Northeastern, and most of the places, I think USF is the only one where they had a kinesiology major. So that's
Right.
essentially
Yeah.
what it is.
Excellent. Okay, excellent. Well, with that, what I'm going to do is, if there aren't any more questions, again, Ursula, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. We're excited to have another alum in our midst, and to help him get to where he wants to be. But thank you so much. We appreciate it. And then also thank those who joined us tonight, because we know that you could choose to be with your family and friends or other things, and you choose to be with us. So thank you so much, and wish much luck to with this the second child. And I know it's going to be very successful, and we appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Resma.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye.